Cool. What's up, everybody? Today I am here with Bray. Those of you who watch our live streams will recognize him. For those of you who don't watch the live streams, Bray is another YouTuber, and he's been consistently showing up at the calls for a while now. Like, when did you start joining? It was a couple months ago.
Yeah, about September, I think.
Mm-hmm. Time
Yeah.
flies. And so Bray wanted to talk about some kind of like mentality things. Um, so just share what we wanted to talk about so people have some context, and then we'll just chat. This is just going to be a casual conversation between us talking about this subject. Okay, guys? This isn't like a tutorial. I'm not trying to do or lead you anywhere specific, just having a conversation with Bray.
yeah. So, yeah, I decided to do one of your 30-minute chats. I wanted to explore if been diving in deep into about belief systems and, maybe dive into some experiences you had to really get you to like change a certain habit or to really make a switch. So, a problem I'm experiencing is, I'm like to stock trade and I do stock trading stuff. And one thing I tend to do is I don't follow my rules. So, I kind of like identify like I'm a rule breaker. I really don't, I just grew up like not really like following rules. So I'm just really learning that, like, how can I, like maybe identify that belief and be like, change it, tweak it, not so much like really fight against it, but maybe, you experience something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. There's a phrase I like, bridging the gap. And so the idea is that there's the person you are now and the person that you want to be. And the goal is to bridge the gap between these two different people because essentially, maybe some people will think that they're the same, but probably if they think they're the same, that's just like a defense mechanism, and other people would tell you that they're assholes and they're not the same. Because most people constantly we're aware of what we need to improve and work on, and you never really get to a point where that's not true anymore. There's always things to improve. You can't ever, become a perfect person, so to speak. But you can be a person who is in the habit of doing the things that you know make you happy. And I think that's kind of what you're touching on here. So I can share a little bit of like my own personal struggle with this kind of stuff because I went through like two phases, I like to say. Um, Originally, when I started getting into online income, I thought it was all about information. I thought that I just needed to know the right stuff and then I would apply it. But as the years progressed and as I acquired ludicrous amounts of information, I came to understand that it is okay, you do have to have the information. This is true. But just because you have the information doesn't mean that you're going to apply it and use it. And there are some cases where a person with less information can apply it better than a person with more information. That's actually super common. And this is one of the things I talk about in the calls, how when you're creating content, you really can't you can't let yourself not create content because you're not great at it or you're not the best or whatever, because the reality is, like, if you're just making content, at some point you're gonna be one of the more talented people. But maybe you're not now, but you will be. And if you don't put out content because of that mentality, that you got to wait till you're better, and you don't get better, and that's another example. There's so many examples of these mentality changes that kind of have to happen. um, but for me, I still can't do anything for more than like an hour or two a day. That's I just can't, no matter what it is. And I've completely given up on trying to get myself to do that, right? That's my kind of maybe weakness or obstacle. And I used to struggle as well with trying to force myself to do that. But it took me a while to understand that, okay, yeah, that's what people talk about, like working 8-hour days. But for me, that doesn't work. I get bored. I'm not happy. But I can work for 8 hours. It just can't be on the same thing. I have to clean, I have to cook, I have to skate, I have to talk to some friends, I have to make some YouTube content, I have to do some other things. I can work all day, but I need variety. And in my case, I needed to really learn all of these things and have these experiences before I could understand what I needed to fill my day with. And there's still times where, like, okay, in the past, for example, when I was playing video games, I would keep playing video games and I would just kind of start feeling depressed. And I thought that was because there was something wrong with me. But I've come to understand that that's because I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And my body knew, my deeper self knew that I wanted to be working on something that made me happier and made me feel fulfilled. And I was playing a video game. So no matter how great the game was, that wasn't what I was looking for in that moment. I needed fulfillment, I needed work. But I was in the habit of responding to that desire by just continuing whatever I was doing. I didn't realize that I was actually hurting myself and doing the hard thing. I was in the habit of doing something that I wasn't enjoying that consumed my time instead of doing something that's quick, that I enjoy and makes me feel happy. And I want to tell you that there's some magical change, magical mentality that you can just think it with, but uh, I think it's just about small steps. Every day you got to try and be more the person who you want to be and less the person you don't want to be. You have to be aware of who you are now, what you feel your limitations are, which you obviously have. You're very aware that there's certain rules that you want to be a person who follows, but you struggle to consistently follow these rules that you set for yourself. Like, you've made these rules, you know? It's not like someone else is telling them for you, right? And that either means one of two things in my opinion. One, you're just being impatient and you just need to give yourself more time. You're going to fix your problems. You will become this person. Just keep at it. Or two, the rules are wrong. I mean, those are the only two things
Okay.
I can think of, really.
Okay, I definitely feel you. Yeah, well, the rules aren't wrong because I see other people having results and stuff, but yeah, I definitely can feel that. I definitely can feel that because I've been switching to shorter trades. It's kind of funny that you said that you can do stuff in short bursts now, and you're okay with that, and that's what I've been, thinking about that. Just get these short burst trades. I can definitely catch like the dips, the low parts of the trade, but when it comes to the sell, it gets a little bit less mechanical and more subjective,
Mhm.
and then that's where the big mess ups can happen.
Have you ever heard about chicken sexers?
Chicken sexers? No.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I'm honestly not completely sure how true this is, but it's often a story referenced by people to illustrate a point. And basically, like, there's this scenario where you need to identify the gender of a chicken. And you can't actually tell physically. They're not bigger, they're sexually dimorphic or whatever it is. I don't know if it was a chicken or some other species. I think it has something to do with the point in the life cycle that the organism is in. It hasn't developed enough either way to show any evidence. Like, you couldn't look at a photo and say, this is what makes you know. Yet there are people whose jobs are to do it, and the ones who are really good can do it up to like a 98% accuracy. Yet they can't explain how they know. And that's something that's quite interesting because there is a part of humans where the the extent of our abilities when we're talking about what we're consciously aware of is less than the total extent of our abilities. Our as an individual, as an entity, we are capable of doing things that we don't fully understand why, right? And like, I think day trading is a really interesting case with that because that is a great example of it because you're just looking at so many patterns. And once you've spent 10, 15 years looking at patterns, you can instinctually know something's different, even if you can't logically explain why, right? So it's there.
True.
There are people who do that. They low and they can tell you like what the signs are, but that's the tricky part because you like when you talk about these graphs and stuff. When I look at them, I hear your words, but I don't see it. And that's how a lot of people feel, you know, and you're developing this part of yourself that is able to really kind of just know what's normal and be able to identify when something doesn't look normal. Whereas to most people, it just looks really abnormal. So I could imagine that in that particular niche you're in, um, yeah, that's tricky. Definitely tricky. Different with
Mm.
YouTube videos, I think. Well, I don't know, because you're still essentially figuring out a product, doing research, making something. You're doing the same thing. You're responding to a stimulus and making a product, except instead of making a product, it's a purchase. So I don't know.
Exactly. And it takes action to make stuff work.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely look at stock trading like a business. You know, you gotta plan it out. You gotta take action every day, and then you gotta write down your results and have goals. Everything. It's like so symmetry. And
Got to stick with it.
the people who do the best at the stock trading are the business owners and stuff.
Hmm.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I see all the employees that want to do stock trading so bad, they just drop off like flies. And then the business owners, they're all patient with it. You know, they take their time. They're the ones doing the paper trading the most. And I just study them. I'm like, man, they just think about it so differently. So weird.
I think most that's something that happens with a lot of income streams, where a lot of people will say that they're interested in it, and I don't think it's that they're lying. It's more that they
They're
how do I
searching for
put this?
something.
I don't think they're even searching for something necessarily. It's more like, so in most societies, people's words don't match their actions. It's more
Hmm.
often that they say what they say is what they want to be or what they're thinking about. And almost by that happening, you know it's not who they are. In most cases, I don't think most humans, I mean, correct me if you feel otherwise or any of you guys listening, I don't think most of us come into this world in an environment where we are nurtured and loved to be at our best and say and do all of the things we say and surrounded by examples of people doing the things they say they're going to do. Um, Maybe my life was way different, but I struggled for like 22 years not really knowing people who actually did the things they were going to say that they were going to do. It being completely normal to be around friends who joke to each other, insulting each other, but they're just joking when really they're saying mean things to each other and trying to protect their egos and all this useless bullshit that just harms people. Like most of the world is kind of crappy in that way. And there's pockets of amazing, awesome people, but I don't think that's normal. I definitely don't think that it's normal for people to follow through with the things that they say that they're going to do. If anything, I think it's more likely that if they say they're going to do something, they're not going to do it versus them having said nothing at all. But I don't like that I feel that way, but I do feel that way about most people. And it's not that they're untalented or unskilled, it's that they don't really deeply want the thing they're saying. It's just they like the idea of it, or it's just they want to be looked at as a person who does something cool or interesting, or it's only because in the current social group that is something they could say that would get them to be like accepted or feel better off. Like these kind of forces are what normally dictate people's behavior. So it makes sense that people who were already involved in business in some level would take a more kind of analytical and patient approach than people who just casually express interest in trading, just because that's how it is for most people casually expecting interest in anything. Tons of people talk about stuff for years and years and never do it.
Mm. Hmm. That's interesting.
I don't know if
That
that's
is
true for
interesting.
everyone else, but It was true in my life, but obviously that was just my upbringing in my life. One thing that
Right,
makes me
right.
think it's true is because of how much people value like a worldview or positive way of be like a vibe I'm often a part of. I don't think of it as valuable because it's normal to me. But then when I have interactions with other people, those interactions remind me that it's not something they're used to. They're not used to not being insulted. They're not used to being supported. They're not used to like random acts of kindness and these things. It's not normal for most people. Most people have a kind of depressed worldview, and that touches into my personal struggle. Again, before I talked about information and how I went through a phase where I thought it was all about information. I went through that phase with myself, and then I also went through that phase in my desires to help other people. I thought that you could just show people the right information. But now I see that we are in a world where any of us, especially now where I live in a country where you only need $500 a month to be able to quit your job. As long as you're not working all your time to earn that $500, you're going to be better off. You're going to be able to grow it. That's life-changing money here. And there's not any actual barrier to prevent anyone from doing that. It's all mental. And it's all mental. And it's insane. Like I want to tell people that like their obstacles and the things that they think are problems are actual real problems that are preventing them from doing stuff. But it's never true. If you're alive and if you're breathing, you can change your life in a year or two if you really believe in it and you apply yourself. Technology has changed everything, and that's what makes it so tricky because I don't know how to get people to see that because I only saw that because I was raised traveling around the whole world and like I witnessed people doing it firsthand when I went to these events. So it's crazy.
It is crazy, man. It is. It's so hard to get them to do it. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if Tony Robbins knows the secret formula or not, or he just got a crowd of followers who just like hearing his words and stuff. But
That's how
man, it is hard.
any person who has followers, like you're essentially a vibe machine, and people who follow you like being exposed to your vibe, and they become a little bit like you in some way in their life. Does it mean they do what you say completely, live the same life as you? Probably not. The vast majority of them won't. But
True, true, man. Well, yeah, that's where I just wanted to touch base on that, see what experiences you went through, and see how you
I'm
came to terms
still
with it.
going through.
Well, you're coming to terms with it. You set up a plan to work 2 hour, 2 hours a day, and you try your best to execute it. So you found out
I
what
don't
works
really
for
do
you.
that anymore though now. So
Oh,
I've now like abandoned that whole philosophy of I try very hard to not ever use hours as a metric for my work because hours isn't it doesn't have anything to do with what work you do or what you get done. It's not a specific task that improves your future. Hours comes from the mentality of trying to convince other people that you're doing something. That's the only
yeah,
purpose saying 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours or whatever has. It never is actually like the concrete thing that you need to change. And I think that in my case, this is more true than in other people's lives because obviously if you're like say that you work hourly, you need to think in hours. It's very relevant to what you do. But I don't work hourly and it's completely possible to work for 2 hours on busy stuff that doesn't change anything. Whereas you could do other things. Like if I cook and I skate and I exercise and I clean, I can do something in 30 minutes related to my personal life and work that really compounds and changes my future. Whereas if I just wake up and I think I'm going to work for 4 hours, I might be able to find that thing, but chances are I'm not going to enjoy the process, and I'm still going to have to do all the other shit in my life. And I'm going to feel bad about not having cleaned, not eaten properly, and not done all that stuff. And now I see that I can literally just do those things first, and my brain figures out my problems. And then when I go try and deal with it later, it knows the answers. And I don't actually need to grind it against the wall for 4 hours to get a result. I can just figure out what the problem is, go cook, clean, spend hours doing other stuff, and then the result just shows up. And it's not fair. Like, really, it's compared to how hard most people work. That being true in the case of self-employment and like working the way I do isn't really fair, definitely, compared to other people.
Not fair.
It's not. It's definitely not fair. And especially living here, like most people have very little money here. Um, and like one of these calls for reference, or one of the paid calls, the consulting calls, that's only $20 for 30 minutes, right? And as far as consulting go, that's dirt. Like really, really cheap,
Yeah.
right? And even that being said, that rate per time is as much as a lot of my friends earn in a whole day of working. And it's just 30 minutes. It's insane. And it's not because I'm more
Man.
talented. It's not because of anything to do with me. It's just the circumstance I exist in that anybody also has access to. But I think one of the reasons people struggle to see the world that way is because it means taking responsibility for your life. And most people aren't willing to do that. Their consciences and their psyches are founded on them being fucked over by other people. It's fundamentally part of who they identify themselves with, like especially in cases, for example, where someone doesn't have a father or whatever reason. Like a lot of these people, and I understand 'cause my dad, he didn't abandon me, but he's been dead for over half of my life. He died when I was a kid, right? Um, you can make these events what break you, or you can make them what makes you stronger. And the only difference between which you do is what you tell yourself. The event doesn't matter. Tons of people don't have dads in their life. You know, tons of people have seen death. Tons of people take it horribly. Some people take it better. There's not really a difference in the person. It's a difference in what they tell themselves. And that's true for all of us, no matter what situation you're in. You just tell yourself the right things and you can get yourself better. You can get yourself out of it, no matter what's wrong. If you're alive, you're still able to bleed, you can fix it.
There we go. There we go. So I was interested too. How much is, like a regular rent out there, and how much are you paying for rent? Because I know you split your rent payment with a couple people.
So for a room in Managua, a local would pay anywhere from $30 to $100. That would be normal. And keep in mind, that's the same price range as like in the US, 200 to 800. So the quality level between like a $30 room and a $100 room is a lot. And you can find rooms that are more expensive, obviously. But typically, once they get more expensive, you're not just having a room. You rent that room, but then it's like the kind of scenario where I'm in, right? I pay $130, but I have access to an entire house. I just technically just pay for my room, but I'm on really good terms with everybody. We're a community. We share food. We work on projects. We cook together. We exist as a unit, so to speak. Not all of us, but enough of the members in the community are like that's just how it is, right? And this is not a like super great deal financially. The whole area, I don't live in the whole building. I live in the half of the building, and then the whole top floor above that. And the whole section that I use costs $350 per month. And that's for a roof, a terrace, a kitchen, living room, dining room, master bedroom, extra bathroom, and 2 bedrooms is $350 in the city in one of the wealthier neighborhoods with convenient access to, like, there's a Walmart, there's Maxi Pali, there's the actual, like, mercados, their markets, and they're
Mm.
incredibly cheap. There aren't that many close by to Bologna, actually, which is kind of like, I could get to a market, it would take me like 15 minutes, like in a taxi or something. And because it's that far, I tend to not do it. I go to like a place that would take me 3 minutes or 5 or something. But it's cheap, and that's normal. So like you could budget $200 a month um, for rent, and that would, like, you could likely find a place that's cheaper than that. You can rent whole houses for $200 or $300. It's like, you have to be careful though, because like if you are talking to tourist related people, they will charge you 2 or 3 times these prices. Like, people get charged $400 to stay in a room in a crappy house for a month when they could literally rent that entire house. That's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
So you just kind of
Yeah.
have to have the local perspective. Utility bills are really cheap. Internet's kind of expensive, so maybe internet will be $50 a month. Um,
Not bad.
It's not bad from an American perspective, but for a Nicaraguan perspective, imagine paying 50% of
Yeah.
your rent as internet.
Dang.
That's like if your internet bill was $400 in the US, you know?
Dang. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Dang. I'm all like, that's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way as you do, but
Oh man. It feels bad. Well, yeah. I've definitely been looking into that. I've been stumbling on some YouTube channels about the van life and stuff. So I'm looking into that, getting a because I was looking to RV, but I think a van is a little bit more versatile, more
cheaper too.
yeah, cheaper, more secluded, less obvious and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking about the van life.
Yeah, honestly, it took me 2 years to get more comfortable in Nicaragua, but I don't feel as comfortable in the United States. And I started off
Anymore.
having like nervousness about being in Nicaragua, feeling like I was a foreigner, yada yada. But ultimately, I like to visit the US, but life here is so good and so much cheaper that it just doesn't feel like it makes sense anymore. And there's this joke amongst me and my friends here that there's the Nicaraguan curse. That's when you go to Nicaragua and you spend some time there, and then you go back to the States. The curse starts as soon as you return to the States, because you likely
Mm,
met more people while you were in Nicaragua than you currently know in the United States. They were probably friendlier. You also probably saw a lot more attractive people. Um, Everything was cheap. Like, the people are more relaxed. So it's just so different that when you go
oh
back,
man.
and especially if you're in California or something, just seeing how expensive things are. Like, for some reference, whenever I go visit my friends on the East Coast, I go to Korean barbecue. I
Yeah.
go to this place called So, and I love it. It's great. I always like eat a bunch of food, drink a bunch of sake. It's like the one time I'll drink a little bit too much and like be okay with that. For some, I don't know why. I like sake a lot. Um,
Okay.
but that'll be like 50 or $60 a person, right? So a whole table, maybe $200, $300 in
Dang, that sounds rent.
one meal, right? Here, that's literally as much as some of my friends spend in a whole month.
Gosh.
And these
Crazy,
are like
man.
averagely well-off people in Nicaragua for their age, and money just goes so much further here. And a lot of Americans are really like cynical and bitter, and they'll be like, "Oh, people are just going to take advantage of you. They're just going to want you for your money, yada yada yada." Now, I don't know, because I don't have that experience. That being said, I was raised a foreigner and I'm much better at integrating with other cultures. I don't alienate myself as much as someone who's like a hardcore American who hasn't ever been out of the country. They would be more likely to be in a scenario where someone's abusing them for money. But what it ends up happening is that like money is just one of the reasons to be associated with you. And as a person who has money, you're going to find that people do treat you better. Maybe it's fake, whatever. The reality is you get treated better. More people smile at you. More people are going to help you out and listen to what you have to say because they perceive your opinion as a little bit more valuable because you're wealthier. And I'm not saying that that's always honest, but it's also definitely completely inaccurate to say that it's always bad for someone to want you for money. Like basically anybody in the US online say that they're in their like 40s, lonely, whatever, a male. They earn $20,000 online. They could come to Nicaragua and find like a loyal, dedicated wife who loves them and actually loves them and falls in love with them, even though a main part of that is the money. But people don't understand that like that's just one facet of life. And for a lot of people on this earth, a lot of females in particular, like that's how they were kind of raised is that like they they believe their purpose and they make it their purpose to be a loving wife and a supportive person to a good husband who loves them. And that's like all they want. They don't care if there's an age difference as long as they're able to have that life. I'm not saying all people are like that. And males can do this as well. Like it's not just females, but definitely like, uh, yeah, it's complicated. Like technically males and females have equal opportunity in that sense, especially in the online world. But so many more people who pursue it are um, male, which is I don't completely understand why, because I think females have more to benefit, but I don't know. At least if you look at like the statistics of the demographical information about who pursues information related to like drop shipping and self-employment and e-commerce and all this, it's usually like 70% male.
Dang.
But I don't know if that's true for public figures. It's completely possible that if you look at public figures of people who are self-employed and that maybe like 50% of them are female. I don't know. Like, because when I went to grind camp, 50% of the people there were female. That was coincidence. That wasn't planned. Yet, in
Yeah.
my personal interactions with people interested, almost all of them are male. Like, the vast majority of them are male. Um, that's a whole other subject. But it does touch into one of the reasons I really enjoy being in Nicaragua. And I can't say that this is about Nicaraguan people, but I can say that the particular group of people I'm around, the females are super ambitious and independent. Like they are not the kind of people who would be happy just being somebody's wife. Like the idea of that disgusts. Um, I love that so much. Like I love
Yeah.
being around that.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing, so incredibly refreshing. And like I said, I maybe that's something cultural here. It's more common. They have had more like female role models and political figures and stuff than most other societies. But I think it could also just be that I'm in an abnormal group and I just happen to meet, like, I landed in a pocket of people like that. So I perceive that a lot of people are like that, but really it's just because I'm in this pocket of people who have that kind of mentality. Who, of course, by nature, that's how people are. We bring people around us who
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
similar. So it's kind of, it's not
That we
like
want to track.
everything's
Yeah.
spread evenly. Yeah, exactly.
Good. Good, man. Dang. Things are clicking for you, man. I like that. Yes, sir. Well, I mean, that's all I wanted to touch on, man. That's all I could really think of. I was just going through that, and I'm really liking how I've been trading recently. I'm really just honed in on one specific type of like two specific type of things I'm looking for, and those aren't happening, then that's it. I'm not trading. I'm just waiting.
And so if that's one of those rules that you're saying, and then sometimes you don't follow through, supposedly if you just keep going, you get to a point where you know that you won't feel happy with yourself if you don't follow your own rules. I
Right.
guess to bring it back to that, I can share something that's been helping me work more. So I still don't work as much as I would like to on the Spanish content, but I do it every day. And one thing that really helps is knowing it makes me happier. I feel better. And I can forget that sometimes, especially if I haven't done it in a couple of days. But the reality is, whenever I sit down and do it, I feel better about myself. I'm more able to do something else and enjoy it. I feel happy. And every time that I don't do it, or I think about that feeling, and I think, I know I'm in the habit of not doing these things, but now I've done it a couple times, and it always makes me feel better. And I am growing the habit of being a person who does these things, and I'm improving. Not fully improved, but it's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love that. Love that answer. That's exactly what I'm doing. Instead of taking the whole the whole trade, like waiting for the whole setup to pretty much holding for a bigger profit. Just gonna take the small profits. Just get in when the going is good, and don't worry about catching the bigger move. So
Yeah, you'll figure it out, man.
yeah, yeah.
So
And the weekly chat for Sunday, um, I was seeing if you wanted to do it like 11:30 around that time, or if I could just
yeah, I
come in
think pretty
late.
much any time then works for Rita. And I actually talked another person booked a call with me, and they were a perfect candidate to join the group actually. So I talked to them about it, but they wouldn't be able to make Saturday. So it's another incentive for me to do it on Sunday. But it's another person who runs a YouTube channel. I think pretty small. I didn't
Mm,
actually look at her YouTube channel. I just talked to her about picked her brain about how she creates videos and what she does. Um, and she does content about tarot card reading and is trying to make a Udemy course.
okay.
And it was cool because I like talking to that kind of the person. I'm way more interested in talking to the person who's already creating regular content, regardless of the quality of the content. It doesn't matter because for me, that's how I know that they're serious. It's like I don't care if they don't have to work all day, but this has to be something that they want to work on regularly for a couple of years if they want to get success out of it, right? And so it's easier to work with someone who's already maintaining a YouTube channel for that reason because they're already in the habit of doing something regularly and they've done it for a period of time. So the chance of they just have to tweak a few things to succeed. And it's easier to tweak things you're already doing than to create new habits. That's super hard. So it's really hard to work with people who they like the idea of being a YouTuber and making content, but they aren't because typically that means that they're suffering from that problem we talked about earlier where they think that they have to get better before they produce content, and that's super complicated because again it's way harder to get someone to start a habit than it is to get someone to just change what they're already doing.
True. True. Woof.
But yeah,
But hey, we're
we can
helping.
figure out whatever time works best for you. And I think Rita has complete open availability on Sunday. So
On
just
Sundays.
text it to the group, and then I'll just change that to be the default time.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, man. I'm there.
Awesome. So for those of you guys watching, I run a weekly mastermind live stream. Anybody can join. Typically, people who join are interested in YouTube in some way, getting experience. We do two things now every week. We pick a course that's as a group, we decide on a course on Skillshare. And as part of the group, I can show you how to get membership and stuff. You don't need to worry about paying for any of this. Don't think that we're buying courses every week. Fuck that. But so we pick one of those courses that's relevant to the group, and then we take it kind of like a book club. You read a book, then you talk about it. Think about it like that. It's a course club. Pick a course, talk about it, and then also we'll do an accountability task. So this is something that you pick, and I'll work with you as part of the call. And the idea is to push yourself a little bit, but not be unrealistic. You want to have this task be something that you weren't necessarily going to do otherwise. So it's important that you pick a task that isn't like, well, I know I'm going to do this productive thing anyway because I've been doing it every day for 6 months. So I'm going to say that's my task. That's a bad one, right? Really what you want is a task that pushes you to establish a good habit, something that's a catalyst that puts you in a position where you're more likely to do more work, or it costs you less to do the work you want to do. Something supplementative, right? And that's the premise of the mastermind group. We just meet once a week and we talk about these two things. The courses we did and that, and it's live streamed and there's chat questions and stuff, so anybody can ask questions in the chat. I'll occasionally look at the chat, but I focus on the individuals in the call. It's not a Q&A typically. So just more information for those of you guys interested. If you want to join, all you have to do is join the Discord channel. There is a link in the description of this video. Once you join the Discord channel, then every Sunday, a link will be sent out to a Zoom room. All you have to do is join that Zoom room, and then I live stream the whole process. So you won't actually see the live stream part unless you watch it on my channel. But it's kind of hard to do that and also be on a call.
True. Join. Whoever's watching.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you want to check out Bray's YouTube channel, it's all about stocks and day trading, just like what he's been talking about. And it is in the description of this video. See you guys next time.
Peace.